On behalf of Case Western Reserve University's Women in Tech Initiative, I'm your host, Michelle Burgess. In today's segment, we're going to be joined by Dr. Allison Hess-Dunning, and she is a research investigator with APT Center and the Lewis Stokes Cleveland VA Medical Center. She received a bachelor's degree in engineering physics from the University of Pittsburgh and a master's degree and Ph.D. in electrical engineering from Case Western Reserve University. In this segment, she'll share details about her work and her educational pathway. Thanks for joining us. So Dr. Hess-Dunning, I'm excited to learn about you as a researcher and being at the Lewis Stokes Department of Veteran Affairs Medical Center. Tell us about your pathway because it's a little bit different than some of the other fields, so we're eager to learn.
So I did my undergrad at the University of Pittsburgh, where I majored in engineering physics. And that's a major made up of physics and electrical engineering and material science courses. This was a very small program, but it was a good match for me because I had some vague interests in advanced materials and electronics, especially at small size scales. And during the summers, I also had some internships that helped to solidify my interest in pursuing graduate studies in flexible microsystems. And that led me to working under Professor Chris Zorman in electrical engineering at Case, while I pursued my master's and Ph.D. degrees. And the focus of that research was on the development of fabrication processes for devices that interface electronics with the nervous system.
So with the different substances that you talked about and just the advancements that are happening, share a little bit about some of the aspects that bring you the most joy in your work.
I enjoy playing with new toys in the lab, new materials in the lab, but really the most joy comes from overcoming some difficult problems with other people who are also trying to solve the same problems. And that's really gratifying, especially when we finally get there. But also, as I work with more undergrads and graduate students, I really derive joy from seeing their progress and their successes. And I also take a lot of pride in the idea that the work I'm doing is going to benefit veterans and others in their day-to-day activities.
Can you tell me some of the unique challenges that people might not foresee or know about with your line of work?
Generally speaking, a primary challenge is certainly acquiring funding for a project. The supplies we use, the tools, equipment usage, as well as salaries for personnel and myself, all require funding. And funding is usually acquired through competitive grant proposal processes where you need to convince a panel, usually through a written document, that your proposed work is worth investing in. So funding agencies are limited as far as how much money they can distribute, which means that many ideas go unfunded. And so there are certainly parallels with having a business. But on the plus side, this mode of operation offers a lot of freedom in terms of determining the types of projects I work on.
And you have your bachelor's and you have your master's and your PhD. If you had your opportunity to go back and to do anything different in terms of classes, traditional, non-traditional, what would you have taken if you had the chance to do it over?
That would be a lot of fun to be able to go back. There are a lot of classes that I wish I would have taken, but not at the expense of classes that I did take. So happy with the ones I took. But I'd like to take more non-engineering classes, especially in areas like history that I have a better appreciation for now than I did back then. I'd also like to take some neuroscience classes. That's something that would be really interesting to me now that I didn't consider at the time. And also, I'm not sure that these types of classes were available when I was an undergrad, but research and project-based classes that are available at Case, where students learn by doing, is a great way to integrate knowledge and see how to apply in education. So I would advise myself to take advantage of those opportunities.
And now with your role at the Cleveland VA, and you're also still engaged at Case Western Reserve University, which is really cool. Tell us what that dynamic looks like. What are you doing at the university? Is there any overlap? And tell us what that relationship looks like.
Sure. So I have two roles at Case. One is that I use the facilities at Case to perform VA research. So the work is funded by the VA, but there are some specialized facilities that it doesn't make sense to duplicate at the VA. So we use the facilities at Case, such as the fabrication facilities. Additionally, I started teaching a couple of courses in the electrical, computer, and systems engineering department. And those classes focus on the technologies required to build computer chips and various types of microscale sensors and systems.
And then for those that are interested in pursuing a similar career to yours, what advice do you have for students that are interested in this journey?
I suggest talking to as many people as you can about their careers and why they chose them, but also don't ever use your degree as a barrier or a limitation as to what you can learn. Reading and understanding fields you're interested in and those related to it, it's really important. And so don't be afraid of a topic just because you didn't take a class about it when you were an undergrad. Hopefully what you've been taught is how to learn, so you should take ownership of your knowledge and your understanding. Additionally, something that surprised me about research and probably the real world in general is the importance of skills that aren't directly related to math and science comprehension. So communication is probably the most important skill set that you can work on, and it takes a lot of forms. You've got writing, illustration, speaking, and that's something I've really worked on quite a bit throughout my graduate and postgraduate career, and I continue to work on now.
I think I'm so in awe about the work that you do and the impact that you're making, whether it's at the initial stage, like the very early research stage, or when it gets to the application. I just think the work that you do is incredible. And on behalf of all of us on Case Western Reserve University's Women in Tech Initiative, we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.